All right, Karina, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Natalie, and thanks to everyone to join us at 5:30 when you can be outside or drinking virtually with your friends. So I really appreciate you coming here instead. I'm really excited actually to do this. This is one of my favorite topics that I speak about because I'm sort of an evangelist when it comes to prototyping. And just so you know, I gave this seminar already all over the world. So it was delivered at University of Pennsylvania Engineering School and Wharton and Drexel, but also at Dubai and Russia and Scandinavia and Greece. So this is the topic that really dear to my heart. And let me start sharing my screen. We will go through a lot of slides, but they will be I will go through them quickly, and it will be a lot of fun. And I also like to keep it interactive. Let me see how I can share my screen. Where did it go? Hold on one second. Somehow, okay, there we go. So share screen. There we go. Perfect. And let me make it big and tell me if you can see it. There we go.
I can see
you guys see it all right? Okay, excellent. So we will make it interactive. So at some point I will pause, and if you want to say something, unmute yourself, okay? All right, so prototyping is the technique that started by Alberto Savoia, and I love its tagline, make sure you're building the right it before you build it right. So a little bit about Alberto and myself. So Alberto is a serial entrepreneur who came to United States in the early, in the 90s. And he started his own company. Well, I'll talk a little bit about him later. And then he was the first grown-up hire at Google. He was the first director of engineering at Google. He is the one who started Google Ads and Google Analytics. So, and through the events in his life, he invented prototyping, which he now teaches at Stanford Business School, and also it is fully employed at Google. And quickly about me, so I also worked in Silicon Valley in what I called Fat 90s, and then moved to Philadelphia and worked at the University of Pennsylvania at the Penn Center for Innovation, where I started and ran their digital accelerator for mobile technologies. We started about 19 companies there. And now I work as a director of business incubation and accelerator programs at the University City Science Center, where I also run global soft landing for international companies looking to enter US market. So that's quickly about us. All right, so let me talk to you a little bit about Alberto's experience and how he came to prototyping. So Alberto came to United States and started his own company. He raised $3 million in Series A, and then 18 months later, he sold it for $100 million in acquisition. And he thought to himself, this is really easy. I'm really good. So then he was the first hire at Google. He joined them as the engineering director. He launched AdWords, and he created this amazing product at Google. So he decided that he is really excellent, and maybe it's time for him to start another company. So in 2002, after the market crash of 2000, he started his company. He went to the best of the best. At that time, he went to Sequoia Capital, which is one of the best investors there is, and he raised 25 million in Series A, B, and C. And he ran this company for 5 years, almost 6. And then he went bankrupt with that company. And at that point, he said, why the failure? What just happened? And he started being a very analytical guy, being a really great engineer. He started to look at the problem and how to avoid it. And that's how he came up to prototyping. If you Google the word prototyping, it actually exists. It's a real word. So he made sure that, Google recognizes it. And now he is back at Google, where he pioneered prototyping at every level of the product launch to make sure that every product is successful. All right. So I'm going to start on a negative note. And those of you who joined me yesterday for seminar and quorum, you know what's coming. But this is the reality. It's a reality for every entrepreneur. Most new ideas fail, even if they're very confidently and well executed. So these are very sober statistics that 80 to 90% of new products fail in the market every year. 4 out of 5 startups lose founders' money. We know that 90% of mobile apps just sit there without making any profits. So they're it's tough. It's tough there for entrepreneurs. And I ran my own companies, and I know that it is truly very difficult, even if you have all the ingredients right. So this is our reality. It did happen to the best. This the page that Microsoft is running. It's a tally of all the failed Google products. So you can see that a lot of the products, for those of you who remember Google Wave, the completely botched attempt at having another email application, we know that Google failed at a lot of products. You will not be surprised to know that Google runs a tally of failed Microsoft products, and here it is. So it even happens to the biggest. Products do fail. So how do we try to avoid it? You need to make sure that you have all the right ingredients executed well. You need to have the right A and B and C and D. If one of them failed, your product or service will fail. Now, it's interesting to look that even the biggest companies like Coca-Cola, like Pepsi, like Apple, with all of their resources, with the best marketing teams, with the unlimited funding, had their fair share of failed products. So knowing this reality, we need to take a look how we can validate our products and our ideas faster before we spend any money or any time really developing it and then finding out when it's too late that no one actually wants it. So Alberto calls it the flop. There are 4 ways to flop on the market. And one of them is failure in launch. One of them is failure in operation. Actually, 3 ways. And one of them is failure in premise. So which one of you can unmute yourself and tell me an example of failure in launch? Anyone? Come on.
Hi, this is Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, Mark.
Hi, it's Mark DeGuzman from Rutgers University. I recall one of the failures in launch was like the Samsung Galaxy Fold.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. It
Yep.
like kept breaking and they had to
Absolutely.
recall everything.
Yep. So faulty product, absolutely. That would be failure in launch. Bad marketing, failure in launch, absolutely. What would be the failure in operations? Can someone give me an example of that? All right, you launched your product, but you are not ready to support it, right? Your infrastructure is not there. Your distribution is not there, right? That would be a prime failure in operation. And finally, the most important is failure in premise. Who can tell me what that means?
If you had an assumption that was inaccurate going to market with a product that you thought people would want and they don't really want it, then that I think would be a failure in premise.
You're absolutely right, Janice. That's exactly it. So you build the wrong it, right? No one wants your it. So that's the failure in premise. And that's the most important ingredient here. And that's what we're going to talk about, how to avoid it.
And
So
Karina, really quickly, we had some chats in. So Shelly or Jason said that Google Glass would be a failure in operations.
Absolutely. Yes, they're absolutely right. Yes, exactly. Very good. Excellent. So the right idea, if confidently executed, will succeed in the market. But the wrong idea, even if you have the best team, the best funding, will not succeed in the market. So make sure that you're building the right it before you build it right. Okay. All right. So when you have an idea, what do you do with that? So you came up with an idea. What's next? Anyone?
I would think, sorry, Mac here.
Yep.
I would think that when you first create an idea, you would also need to understand the execution around it. So the planning to kind of like progress the idea forward. But also I would think, you know, you would need to do some research to make sure that the idea is valid before you actually start to just run with it.
So yes, when you have an idea, what we usually do, we talk about it to our friends, our family, and we ask for people's opinions. And that's what you get. You get opinions. And so Alberto calls it the thought land. This is an excellent quote by Henry Ford. If I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse, right? And because that's what people know, and they give you their opinions. So the most important thing in prototyping is not to get opinions, but to get data. And I know that Mark is there. Mark is running the I-Corps program. I-Corps program is all about asking for people's opinions. So hopefully with this tool, you can combine it and also get data out of people. So don't ask, gouge the market with data. All right, so this is an old example, but it's a classic example that is taught at every business school. In a boom of .com, and I actually remember it vividly because I lived in Palo Alto at that time, there was a company called Webvan. I don't know how many of you know this or remember it, but Webvan was the very first company that wanted to deliver groceries to your door, groceries that you order online, right? That was mid-90s. So they raised an astonishing amount of money, $122 million from Goldman Sachs and Sequoia Capital. In 1999, they went IPO. So they launched in 26 major markets all at once. They had huge refrigerated fleets and distribution centers. They had their own trucks. And so they launched they went IPO in 99. And when they went to investors, everyone said, what a great idea. So that was a lot of opinion. What a fantastic idea. We're going to give you 122 million. They went bankrupt in July of 2001. So let it sink right now. 122 million, IPO, and then 2 years later, they're bankrupt. So Alberto calls it false positive. Now, if there's a false positive, there must be some false negative. So this is the company that everyone knows that went to every investor and every investor turned them down. Can you guess the company? I sort of have a teaser here that will tell you what the company is.
Google?
Twitter?
It's Twitter. Twitter went to every investor and every investor turned them down. Every investor was like, 140 characters of what? And now we know what a great company it is. So Alberto calls it false negative. Okay, so again, they asked for opinions, they got their opinions. So get out of the thought land as soon as possible. And instead of opinions, get real data, and I'll show you how to do it. And instead of asking questions, prepare the action plan. And instead of ideas, do prototypes and do as many prototypes as you can before the one sticks. Okay, so what is the prototyping? Prototyping is the technique that helps you validate the market appeal with the smallest possible investment of time and or money. And a lot of you engineering types out there have tendency to start programming right away because it's easy and because you know that you can. And the challenge with prototyping is to get data from the market before you write even one line of code. So that's the challenge that I'm going to encourage you to use. All right, this is one of my absolutely favorite examples of all times. And let me just rephrase it by telling you that prototyping is a great technique, not only for budding entrepreneurs, but also for large companies that are launching new products. And this is an example of a large company, IBM. So in 1980s, IBM wanted to be in business of personal computers. Because before, as you can remember or maybe know, IBM was a producer of large mainframe, enormously huge computers. And they wanted to enter a market of personal computers. Now, this is 1980s, and they thought that their barrier to market would be the fact that no one knew how to type. There were trained people, secretaries usually, the typists that knew how to type, maybe some authors knew how to type, but generally, people were not trained to type on the computers. And so IBM decided that to overcome this barrier to market, they're going to develop the speech to text technique. The product that when you will be speaking will translate your speaking into a typing words. So they went to all of their clients and they said, if we're going to spend the 9 months developing it, would you buy it for tens of thousands of dollars? And most of their clients said, yes, we would. So that we will spend all this money, said clients. So IBM invited clients to come in and test their new product. So clients came in, they entered the room with a microphone, they sat down in front of the computer and they spoke. And the words appeared on the screen. What clients didn't know was that there was a woman sitting behind the curtain that was typing everything that the clients were saying, right? So IBM did not develop the product. They faked it and invited clients to test a fake product where a person was typing what they were saying. And by the end of this testing day, clients came out of this saying, you know what, we thought we would like it, but we actually don't. Our throats hurt. We are concerned about the confidentiality issues, the noise level. So thanks, but no. And IBM was able to avoid millions of dollars in development and 9 months developing this just to find out that that was the wrong product. So that's the prime example of prototyping that you can do. So you can create conditions when you, and I use the word fake, even though ethically maybe it's not the right word to use, but you can pretend to have a product and test it and get real data out of that, okay? All right, Natalie, I am not seeing any chat, so if there's any questions, please let me know and I will pause, okay?
Yeah, definitely. So we did have one question from Amelia. Do you know what the company Peapod did that Webvan didn't do? Like, do you know what Peapod did really well that made them successful? But
so yes, and we will come back to that actually. Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yes. So before, so this is just to illustrate the point that before the prototype, everyone said to IBM that they would love to use the product. And after prototype, the data that they received actually indicated otherwise. So this is what they got, the return on their investment for prototype. So when I had my own company, I know how difficult it is to look at the data and decide that it's time to close the shop. And Alberto knows it too. He ran his last company for 5 years before it ran out of money. So prototyping is letting you do it really fast. Like if you see that all the indicators show that you will not be successful, you can prototype until the indicators will show otherwise. So this is really important to get out and to fight this compulsion to continue at all costs that a lot of entrepreneurs have. Another great example of prototyping is with Jeff Hawkins, who created Palm Pilot. Now, all of you young folks probably don't remember, but before the smartphones, there was a product called a personal data assistant called Palm Pilot, and I actually remember using it. It was revolutionary, and our modern phones are based on that. So Jeff Hawkins, who invented Palm Pilot, first invented a tablet that failed in the market. It was just too big and people did not use it. So he decided that he wants to create a smaller device, but he first wanted to test it. So he went to his garage, he created a wooden block with a couple of inserts, paper inserts. And he said, I want to create a product that will fit into my shirt pocket. And so he carried this wooden block with him for 2 weeks. And he would get out this wooden block out of his pocket every time he would meet someone, either to schedule an appointment or look up at the contacts or write a memo or look at the calendar. And doing this for 2 weeks assured him that, yes, he would personally use that product. And these are the 4 functions that he needs to have it. And that's how the Palm Pilot started. All right. So what's the difference between prototyping and prototyping? And I've been asked this a lot. So with prototype, we spend days or weeks creating it. And main question usually is, can we build it? And the deliverable is the working prototype. But I will urge you, before you prototype, do pretotype, because you can do it in hours, literally hours or a few days. And the main question is, would they use it? And then the deliverable will be the pretotype. Okay. I'll pause here if there are any questions so far.
Karina, Mac had a question. How different is prototyping from a minimal viable product, MVP? Are they one and the same, or is an MVP a type of prototyping?
So MVP is far removed from prototyping. So if I would put it into the sequence, I would put pretotype, which you can do again in a matter of hours without, remember, without writing any code, without building any product. Think of techniques, how you can get data out of potential customers without doing anything in terms of product development. Then next is prototype, when you can actually do your prototype to test it. And then the next comes the MVP, where you have minimum but viable product that you can really put in the hands of your customers. And that would be the sequence of events. Okay. All right, let me talk a little bit about different ways of prototyping. Hopefully it will become a little clear. So Mechanical Turk, I don't know if you guys know the term, but Mechanical Turk was a very popular machine in 18th century, if you can believe it, that was designed to make people believe that the machine can play chess with the players. So it was sort of a first computer. And it went around different cities in Europe as a novelty where people can try their chess skills and play with a machine. What people didn't know was that there was a little man sitting inside the box that moved the pieces to play the chess, right? And hence the term Mechanical Turk. So in the examples that I gave you earlier, the IBM example clearly fits this, this prototyping technique, okay? The next one is Pinocchio, and that's a great example of what Jeff Hawkins did with his Palm Pilot when he designed this wooden block. So you can try to pretend to create a product and use it as intended without actually creating a product. Before Google created Echo, Alberto took the can of beans, put black paper around it, and kept it in every room of his house to see if he actually would use such a product. And he would ask questions, thinking, would he ask questions of this machine? And that's how he prototyped the Echo product, okay? The fake door is probably one of the easiest things you can do to test your product. So fake door is essentially a web page that you can create in a matter of minutes, hours. A good example of the fake door is what Zappos did. They created a web page where they ask people if they would buy sneakers, right? And they put sneakers on the web page. And then when people clicked on the sneakers, the Zappos founder went to the store, bought the sneakers, and shipped it to people, right? So without creating any back end, he was testing the viability of this idea. Would people like to use that? And he validated it. Same example goes with the first online car company, Car Guru. The owner of that company also put one web page with the pictures of the cars, because at that time in the late 90s, it was inconceivable that you will buy a car on the internet, and he wanted to test this idea. So he created a web page with pictures of the cars and pricing, and 4 people clicked on it and actually gave him information on a payment. And he went to a dealership, bought this car. So he didn't make any money on it, obviously, but it was a great way to test his idea, okay? And then he created a real website and had a fleet of cars. Another technique is one night stand, where you test something once just to see if it works. So Airbnb is a great example. I don't know if many of you know how it started, but in 2008, the market crashed. San Francisco was really expensive. I know because I lived there. And so the guys decided that they want to rent out 3 air mattresses in their apartment, hence the word air. And then they wanted to do air mattresses plus breakfast, hence the bed and breakfast. That's how the name started. So they put on a Craigslist ad for 3 mattresses, and 3 people bought it for $80. And just to imagine at that time that 3 strangers would just come into someone else's apartment and sleep in a spare room, it's just crazy to imagine. But in a time of recession, it was a perfect solution for a lot of people, and that's how Airbnb started. So that's a very good example of how you can test something once and then see if it works, okay? Impersonator is the technique where you take existing product and sort of put a new wrapper on it to see if this new product will sell. And a good example of that is Tesla. If you remember the way Tesla started, they took existing car, Lotus, a luxury car, and they took out the motor out of the Lotus, and they replaced it with an electric motor just to see if people will be interested in that. And then they actually collected checks. They collected $5,000 deposit before they built the car, just to see if people will be interested in the concept. And that's how they started their production of Teslas. Okay. All right. So here I wanna tell you, I wanna start a video, but before I start it, I wanna tell you that this is bordering on illegal, but it will give you a good idea how you can do it. And then afterwards, I would like to talk to you about how you can do it in a more legal way. But so this guy has a company that created a consumer product. He bought IKEA t-shirt on eBay, and he went to IKEA in East Palo Alto, and he placed his product at IKEA. And here I want to show you what happened next. So it's a quick video, and then afterwards I would like to get your opinion. And also think about what kind of data he collected through this exercise. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, they're on the rack over there. Oh, no worries.
This is an IKEA, so you can just.
Oh.
Somebody just left them. So,
Oh, for real?
yeah.
Huh, there's a whole stack of them back there, though.
Really?
Free wall hub day at IKEA.
Right.
How did you get that?
Just online, eBay.
Oh yeah, this.
Get anything online.
This is actually. I don't know. I used to like that one better though, but.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
This,
No, I mean clean like it's like no stripes, you know,
Yeah.
just plain.
yeah. Nice. I thought you was a worker here. I was going to say.
No, no.
Introduce myself to say.
Yeah, no, thanks though. I'm Justin, by the way.
George.
Nice to meet you.
Need help? Let me know.
Cool, thanks, man.
Did you get that audio?
All right, so you get the idea, right? So who can tell me what this company learned through this? What kind of data that they collected? And also, how can you avoid doing this illegally? Anyone?
Can I start with some ideas? Can you listen?
Hey, Vino.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
First of all, I think this is not borderline illegal. I think this is completely illegal what they did, but they did collect a lot of data though. So I think they learned a lot about product placement, where exactly they should be, because I see they place it a bunch of places, like near the kitchen counter and checkout places as well. So because in IKEA, if you go, it's very important where you're placing the products so that customers can pick up. So that is one thing, I guess. And I think price points also, they kind of learned about what the price point should be, because I did see did they have different prices, or was it one at the same time? I don't know.
They change prices throughout the day. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So these were the two things which I picked up. I think there was one more which I forgot, but anyways, yeah.
That's really awesome. Yes. So placement within the store, pricing. What's also really important, like more men than women or more women than men. Also, you can try it at suburban IKEA versus urban IKEA and see which clientele it is. So yes, all of those points are really valid. Now, how can you, go ahead, Natalie.
Shelly just chatted, you can potentially also collect demographics, like what kind of people picked up the product, like age or gender.
Absolutely. Yep. All of that becomes really valuable for your product. Absolutely. So IKEA lost that day. IKEA could have made money on this product, right? And they didn't. So don't go to IKEA, but go to a local hardware store, talk to the manager, say, let's split the profit, or I will pay you $100 to keep this product for one day on your shelf, or however you need to do it to validate and test. That might be a good idea to do it. Okay, I find it to be hilarious, but also valuable as an example. And this is the design company that wanted to test their product, and that's what they did. Anyone else wanted to say something?
We did have one other question from Mac. So how do you know when you have enough data? What are the rules against using data that maybe already exist, or using a successful entity as a case study to prove your idea?
Yep. Yeah. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay. Very good question. Hold on to it. All right. Let me see how I can go to my next slide. Oh, here we go. Yes. So this is just another example of companies that used prototyping technique. So this company, Inside Squared, is the financial analytics company. They're really successful. They work with a Fortune 500. This is their current site. But the way they started with an Excel spreadsheet where, again, they manually entered the data and sent to their potential customers to see if people will like what they have. One of my favorite examples is a company called Buffer. I don't know how many of you use Buffer, but Buffer allows you to schedule your messages on social media for specific days and times, and to send it through Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. So before Buffer built anything, again, that goes back to the fake door Pretotype. They built 3 web pages, and they asked very specific and important questions. So this is their first page, right? Choose the time to tweet, add tweets to your Buffer, and then Buffer does the rest. Click on plans and pricing. Okay, so people clicked. They said, oops, you caught us before we're ready, but if you leave your email, classic example, you will be our first customers. But then they went a step further, and that was their next page, where they validated their pricing. Like which one would people click on, right? And so today it's a really successful company, but that's exactly how they started, by validating that people actually will use it. And so it used to be that entrepreneurs will start with the question, how can we make money? And then can we build it? And then would they use it? And with the pretotyping, what we're suggesting is that you flip it on its head and you start with, do they want it? And once you answer that question, then can we build it? And then you figure out how to make money on it. Okay. So what pretotyping lets you do, if you look at these 2 graphs, you can try many, many, many more ideas. And as a result, you have more successes. So yesterday when I was talking about how to turn your idea into company, I said, fall in love with the problem, not with a solution, because then you can try many different solutions before you find the right one that succeeds. Pretotyping lets you try many different solutions quickly before you come up with the right one. And it creates a much bigger failures amount, but they're fast failures. So you, as a result, have more successes and less missed opportunities, okay? All right, now this is a little bit mathematical, but not too difficult. But how can we actually validate it with real data? So there was some really good question about it. So there are a couple of things that we want to measure when we do pretotyping. We want to measure the initial level of interest and the ongoing level of interest, because you can sell something once, but you want to make sure that your customers keep coming back to you and they keep interested in your product. So how do we do it? Let's start with maybe saying, okay, we're going to advertise it and try it, and let 1,000 people know about our product. And then we will look at how many people actually tried this product. And when we divide people tried this product by how many knew about it, we will come to a number that will indicate what is the initial level of interest. Does that make sense? That's easy math, okay? So we will run this exercise with a web van in a second, and you will see how it works. And then the most important thing after that is to verify if there's an ongoing level of interest. So people tried it once, but do they come back to try it again? And that's what we're validating through our pretotyping. So we are going to use people that first tried it and people that are still using it, and we're going to use the still using it divided by people who tried it once, and that gives you an idea of an ongoing level of interest. So just to illustrate this very quickly, let's decide if you're going to pretotype web van, how would you do it? So here I need your input, like give me your ideas. How would you pretotype idea for the web van? Come on. Yeah.
Maybe we'll ask, this is a grocery company, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the one where you order groceries online. But think about it, it was 1990s. So yes.
So don't laugh at me, guys, but that's a random thought. maybe we'll ask our neighbors to see if they have an interest in us helping them with the groceries and see if there's a feedback. I mean, is that, I don't know.
Okay, no, that's good. That's not laughable. All right. But again, when you ask, you get opinions. How can you get data?
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Okay. So maybe will that be like create a Google form and see how many people have some interest and send it to your network or some link, post it on LinkedIn page? Yeah.
So before we blow the 122 million that WebVan raised, so I would suggest spending a few thousand, maybe building a really good web page, and then advertising it maybe in 2 different markets, let's say suburban and urban, let's say Philadelphia and mainline, or San Francisco, Palo Alto, okay? And then get your friends with cars to go and buy groceries and deliver it to people that actually clicked on a web page to see if it sticks, right? So these are the type of questions that we would try to answer with our prototyping. Like, what's the percentage of people will use it? How often will they buy it? What kind of products they will buy? Is it more urban folks or more suburban folks? These are the important data points that you can collect with a really easy prototyping, right? And then, yes, we'll build a high quality website. We'll advertise in 2 markets, and we'll see, you know, we will target X number of people. Let's see how many people actually will click on it, will order it, and what would be the results. And what's more important, you need to have a very specific date of the start and the end of your prototype, so you can really analyze your data. So if we plug it into our formulas, let's say we advertise on a local radio, let's say we reach 10,000 people. And out of 10,000 people, let's say 843 clicked on our website. Well, that's a data point where we know that there was some initial level of interest, so we will continue with that. And then we will continue with that for 4 weeks as we decided. And we see that there was an initial level of interest after which it kind of died. So that will be every indication that maybe this is not a good idea. Now, with a web van, we just know that the timing was not right. And there are plenty of companies that do deliver groceries. Also with a web van, I think the mistake was to launch everywhere at once and build a really huge backend, as opposed to start growing organically from one place slower. And that's what a lot of other successful companies did. But this would be the example how you would prototype a web van, for example. Okay. I also see how you can now have a different language with the early seed investor, where you can decide together that they will invest small amount for you to test the market, get real data, present to them, and then they can invest larger seed or the next tranche if the data indicates that, that there is really traction on the market. So you can go to an investor and say, this is how I'm going to build my prototype. This is the kind of data I'm going to collect. And then once you have this data, you go back and you show the results. And if the results are inconclusive or ambiguous, you just keep prototyping until you get the right results, okay? Well, so now I just quickly want to, let's see, what's the timing? Okay, I wanna quickly run this one exercise by you. And it's a real thing that Alberto did. Let's say that McDonald's wanted to put a new product on the market, Mac Spaghetti. How would you prototype Mac Spaghetti on the market? And again, the key here, remember, you do not build new product. You do not train your chefs to cook it. You have no ingredients, nothing. How would you collect market data through the prototyping technique? I'll start. You will put it on a menu. So you'll have a customer who walks into the McDonald's and sees Mac Spaghetti on the menu. Then what?
You can get a sense of how many people have an interest by seeing how many number of people ordered it?
Awesome. So people will come in, they will order, and you will say, we're so sorry, we don't have it today, but instead have an extra French fries or extra Coke, right? But you register how many people ordered it and maybe collect some demographic data with that. Okay. What is the most important question that you would ask if you run it, let's say, for a week?
I guess you want to know what was that initial interest that we spoke of, that engagement, and how that fluctuates over time as you're collecting data.
Right, so you need to find a way to measure the ongoing level of interest. So the next most important question when the customer comes to the McDonald's is, have you ordered this from us before? And then you know that there is an ongoing level of interest. Well, in case of Mac Spaghetti, it actually didn't work. So we don't have Mac Spaghetti in the menu because the prototyping really failed. But I mean, it succeeded, but the data showed that the product failed. So I just want to quickly remind you of different techniques. So we talked about the fake door. We talked about like landing page that you build quickly. We talked about Pinocchio. We talked about Mechanical Turk. Dropbox, if, as you remember, build a quick video to show how the product works before they build the product. So that's a great way to do it. Let me see, Impersonator, we talked about the Tesla. Crowdfunding is an excellent prototyping technique. Then you can definitely test if there is a market validation, right? So now I just want to quickly switch the gears, and some of you, like Mark, heard this before, but a lot of you didn't. And this is one of my favorite data collection exercises here. So the very first incubator in the 90s out of Los Angeles was an incubator called Idea Lab. They started with 12 ideas that they turned into companies that went really successful. And then over the time, they had way over 100 companies. Some of them were very successful. And so they were able to look at the data and figure out what makes a company a unicorn. What are the 5 main ingredients that make or break the company? And they came up with this 5. So the idea itself, the team, business model, funding, and timing. So 5 ingredients. Here is the explanation of them, but it's pretty self-explanatory. The idea, is it novel? Is it competitive? The team, the efficiency of it, business model, funding, and timing. And so here I want to put a poll to ask you which 5 of these ingredients is the most important. So Natalie, if you can put a poll. Thank you. All right. So some of you already know the answer, but for the rest of you, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. It's very interesting that none of you chose funding. A lot of you chose team, business model, idea, and timing. So for the big reveal, unless there's still people that are voting, but I don't think so. All right. So I see only half of you voted. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. So for the big reveal, here we go. Ready? Oops. So the most important ingredient of the 5 is timing. And so someone asked me about the competitor to Webvan, and that's why they succeeded and Webvan didn't. At Idea Lab, there was a company that did exactly what YouTube does, but they were 6 months early and the broadband was not there yet. And then the YouTube came to the market and boom, we have a YouTube. So timing is the most important thing. And timing is also the thing that you can control the least. You can control your team. You have control over your idea or business model or funding. But with the prototyping, that's where it comes really handy, because with the prototyping, you can test the market quickly to see if it's the right timing for your idea. Okay. All right. So the 5 factors of the failure, not surprising that the first one is that there's no market need, right? Again, you're building the wrong it. And then companies run out of money, and then not the right team, and so forth. What was interesting with the previous slide, if you see, funding is the last on the number of ingredients. Okay. All right, if you want to learn more about prototyping, Alberto actually have a book right now on Amazon. It's either ebook or real book. I have both. There are videos with him, but he is amazing, and I encourage you. He is Italian. I don't think I told you that, but I encourage you to look into it, because I think it's a phenomenal technique if you're just starting out with your ideas. And with that, we have about 9 minutes for questions.
Can I ask one quick question? Am I allowed to ask a question? Okay. So I think for something like this web van where we are delivering groceries, it seems like you have to provide, some stuff. You have to actually do something for a customer to see how it is, right? And it involves customer service and feedback if the groceries are bad, and it depends. It's a customer service based thing, right? Something like the spaghetti thing, you can still get away without even having the product. So it's kind of a different businesses, right? So do you have any comments on if it's a customer service kind of a thing? Do we have to worry about the customer service? Is it also part of prototyping? And that will also involve a lot more money as opposed to just having something on the menu or something like that.
Yeah. So Vino, it might be a surprise to you, but a lot of times when you go on a website and you click on a product and it says out of stock, the product doesn't exist yet, and it's people testing the market. So
Okay.
you can do it, and you can do it ethically. You can put the product that you're about to build, and you can say out of stock, or you can say you caught us too early. You can be really good and honest about it. But yes, you don't have to have a product in order to test it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just got a question in the chat from Shelly. To what extent is prototyping applicable for service/knowledge-based endeavors like a nonprofit?
Excuse my typo. Sorry, it's prototyping. I typed prototyping.
That's okay, Shelly. That's all right. I think you can be very creative with prototyping. A lot of times, in our area, people ask me, well, how can you prototype with life science companies? And obviously, with the drug development, it becomes really difficult. But you can, in the service area, definitely. I've learned about prototyping from Roy Rosen. Roy Rosen is the Chief Innovation Officer at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital and Medical School. And he came just like me from the Silicon Valley. So we bonded over it, and he told me way back when about Alberto and about prototyping. And Roy implemented some prototyping at the University of Pennsylvania Hospital. So if he can do it there, you can do it in nonprofit, definitely, especially if you're dealing with customers. So yes.
And then we have another question. Would it be equivalent to a pilot in a nonprofit or service-based business?
You can call it a pilot, absolutely. And you can, again, the key is to do something without spending funds or much time, right? So yes, you can, if you want to call it a pilot, you can do it and collect data. Just make sure the key here is to design it well to collect as much data as possible in the smallest amount of time before you decide to go forward with it. Yep.
We had a question earlier, Karina, and apologies if this was answered already, but how does pretotyping compare to the methods taught under I-Core?
Right, so that's excellent. And so I-Core teaches you customer discovery. And it's a wonderful technique and it's a necessary technique. But I think customer discovery comes later because customers, again, will tell you their opinions. They have no skin in the game. And if you can design your prototype and combine the customer discovery to make sure that they have some skin in the game, leave an email, put some deposit, whatever, however you want to design it, then you can do it together. But I would suggest doing prototyping, collecting data before you go and interview people to collect their opinions, which is what I-Core essentially does. And I-Core is a wonderful program. As Mark knows, I worked at I-Core at UPenn as a mentor. So it's excellent, but I think in terms of timing, it comes afterwards. It's when you build your prototype, you do the I-Core. How are we doing on time? Well, excellent. We have 4 more minutes. I just want to thank you all for spending this evening with me because I know that you have other things that you can do. You can watch Netflix, you can drink white wine. Well, I suppose you can listen to me drink white wine.
Hi, Karina. This is Mark again. I did have a question because some of these examples are very business product oriented. So they're very consumer product. Like it's very easy for people to grasp and understand. But some of the I-Core teams, they're really deep technologies, which is really hard. And they're so focused on being in the lab and pushing their product without understanding the market. So I'm wondering I'm thinking about how to run a program about prototyping for our I-Core teams. And what do you recommend on trying to do that? Or can we work with you on doing that in the future? How do you recommend we move forward on prototyping?
Yeah. I would love to work with you to try to design something for the labs. But if you think of the products like the Inside Square that does the data analytics for big financial companies, this is the data-driven company B2B that started with prototyping. So yeah, we can definitely work to be creative on that front.
Yeah, I'm thinking biomedical engineering technologies, mechanical engineering technologies that are just your head spins when they start talking about carbon nanotubes and wrapped in polymers,
Right.
So that's why.
And again, you spent time and money building it, and
right.
then what? And then it sits on the shelf. So how can we make sure that people are actually excited about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have an email I can just jot down?
Yeah, let me see how can I get, let me stop sharing my screen and I will write for everyone my email here. Let's see.
The chat should be at the bottom of your screen now, Karina.
Yeah, I just, all sorts of windows are popping up. Here is my email and you can guys connect with me on LinkedIn. Sure, our emails are so long, I sometimes make mistakes writing it. I think this is right.
Hi, Karina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you.
And Karina, I didn't see the email pop up in the chat, but I'm happy to add it for your Science Center.
Oh, I thought I just...
You might have put it privately.
Oh, maybe, sorry. Yeah, can you put it ksotnik@sciencecenter.org? Thank you guys so much. I see some of your comments. It's very nice to read. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming out and for participating. Thank you so much, Karina, for an awesome presentation. I'm gonna stop recording now, so I'll hit the stop button.